If you're like me, you spend the last 10 years wondering how come it's impossible to get an American-made knife, which is not insanely overpriced, made out of great materials, operating on a modern locking system, and with great ergonomics. No, seriously guys, if I rattled off aluminum handles, good stainless steel blade, crossbar lock, made in the USA, you would say, maybe $130 to $250, or even $350 if it's a Benchmade. Well, how about one for under 80 bucks? And it comes from Alabama. One of the most overlooked name brands in the United States knife making universe is Bear Ops. And yes, this knife is made entirely in the US. Well, CBRX, how do you know? Simple. I looked the man straight in the eyes and asked that question. Would you please introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Okay, I'm Ken Griffy, president and owner of Bear Son Cutlery.
Are some of your knives, parts for your knives, made in China?
Okay, let's do it in a couple of ways. Bear and Son and Bear Ops is all made right here in this factory. Okay, the Bear Edge is we buy the handles in from China, and then we turn around and put all the components and all the blades and everything's made here.
Any questions? Why don't we hear more about this company? Simple. They avoid social media like a plague. But let's talk about the knife. This is Nekama 2, or is it Nekama? Here you go. This is Nekama 1, or is it Nekama? A knife that I was fully prepared to love except for, well, I'll talk about it later. This sexy traditional with a bone and carbon fiber handle and polished G2 blade is called Lawman. And fear not, if you like black blade and black handle, they took care of you with Nekama 2. Here it is, a murdered out version. Bear Son has been making a slide lock, which is a version of a crossbar lock, for a while now. It's pretty much identical to how Benchmade does theirs, except all the Bear Son knives have either full liners or aluminum frame, so all of their knives are more robust than FRN Benchmades. In mid-2025, Buck Knife Company entered the contemporary lock marketplace with their Ranger series, and the green one on top has aluminum handles and MagniCut blade, and it's basically identical in size to Nekama 2. The small budget version has 154 cm blade and FRN handles. Speaking of the handles, the texture on the Buck knife was a little bit of a concern to me. It's a little slippery. I know what they're trying to do, a premium version. Whereas Bear Son put a nice working sandblasted finish, but it doesn't feel chalky at the same time. So it feels quite comfortable. The knife is easy to manipulate. I don't feel like it will slip out of my grip even when I do this kind of blade play, which I do a lot. Sorry, hobby is a hobby. Don't recommend it unless you're a well-trained professional. I can't get enough of this back spacer with its pronounced jimping and how it's pushed a little bit out of the confines of the handle. You know, it's all one piece going into the lanyard loop, and I think it combines practicality of jimping with aesthetics. Overall, it's a beautiful knife, second to none, 14C28N steel on the blade. I really appreciate the fact that they minimized the logo etching on the blade. That slight recurve they added to the edge is plain out sexy. And for the 20th time, it's not going to affect sharpening. Speaking of Benchmade, here's the Bugout. The size is identical. And here is Ritter Hogue, also known as Benchmade Griptilian. The Griptilian is a little larger, but due to near identical thickness, the Nekama 2 will be carrying in the pocket similarly to Griptilian. And out of the three, Bugout is the only one that can do this. I don't know if it's a premium feature or not, but it is impossible to emulate on any other knife you will see here tonight. Nekama 2, by the way, is a little less expensive than the Bugout when it came out, and almost 3 times less expensive than the Bugout today. For some reason, current knife enthusiasts don't appreciate recurves. Let me remind you that a recurve has been a traditional feature in American knives since times immemorial, as evidenced by this Ken Onion's design Kershaw Belair. And here's the incredibly popular Belair, also from Kershaw. US made, MagniCut blade. This version has Mike Carter handles. Belair's smoothness, praised by many, is a myth. This knife feels a lot smoother out of the box. There's a lot less rattling in the bearings, and I believe it runs on bearings. I'll verify it later. I don't know. Sometimes the way the market swings is beyond my understanding. I never felt that Belair was a particularly great design, and why should it cost more than $120 is beyond my understanding. Especially considering the fact that for $40 to $60 you can get an amazingly smooth, well-designed Kershaw made in the People's Republic. Speaking of People's Republic, here is NAF's Lender 3 made by Kaiser with its S35VN blade and very smooth, snappy action, perfect action on this knife. And here's the Drop Bear, which really is the one and only Bugout killer. Why? Because this knife is everything that Bugout isn't, except for being made in People's Republic of China. Before you wave a flag in my face, think about this. They're eating our lunch because we let them. Anyway, Bear Son says no to that sentiment. Here is a reasonably priced, well put together, beautifully designed knife that can compete with any knives that you've seen so far on the table. And I said so far because here comes Spyderco Manix 2, which is one of my top 5 most favorite pocket knives. And yet again, I have to bring up the price because this Spyderco is also 3 times as expensive as the Nekama 2. And so is the Para 3, which is currently probably a top EDC choice for men and women, young and old. Am I saying that Bear Son knives are always perfect? Absolutely freaking not. And that's why I felt compelled to buy both colorways of Nekama 2. You see, when I tested Nekama 1, I discovered that when they applied titanium nitrate PVD coating, it caused the blade to soften. Some people prefer ease of sharpening over the edge retention, but these are, I believe, in minority. We'll circle back to that. Let's weigh it, 97.6 grams or 3.4 ounces. Let's throw Spyderco Para 3 on the scale for comparison. That one weighs 3.4 ounces. So they nailed the weight on the Nekama to match one of the most popular EDC knives. Well-known fact is that the Bugout weighs under 2 ounces, and believe it or not, this year they're coming out with a new version with a different lock that's going to weigh even less. Drop Bear is another super popular choice for EDC, and it weighs 3.2 ounces, just a hair lighter than Nekama 2, while being made out of clear Ultim is somewhat of a less heavy-duty knife. Let's take some measurements. The overall length of Nekama is 7.5 inches exactly, which is 190 millimeters. The blade length measured from the handle is 3 3/16 of an inch, or 83 millimeters. And next I'm going to check the cutting edge length the right way. We got 3 5/16 of an inch, and that should give us what, probably 87 millimeters. Hold on here. Yep, it's 87 millimeters. Let me do a couple praises and nitpicks. Look at how the blade in a close position matches the outline of the handle. That is not the case with Bugout. Even though the knife is very popular, it has this weird space here that does nothing for anybody. Aesthetically or practically, it's just there. And they didn't do a much better job on a Drop Bear as well. Who did it right was Ben Peterson when he designed this knife, Lender 3. You see, there's no pronounced protrusion here, and yet I can do this with his knife. Did you see what I did? I jammed my thumb here and flicked it open. So that's a cool feature. I think there may be an opportunity missed here somehow, because they could have bumped it out a little bit and do something at the end. But you know, this is less expensive knife in front of you right now. I'm not sure what the current price of the drop bear is, but I'm sure there's some variations of that are more expensive than the Nekama 2. And another tiny nitpick, I am not crazy about the pocket clip profile. I don't think it's necessary to sort of bring the curve up and over like they did. Look at the most popular EDC knives around. They all executed it on a lot less conspicuous manner. Shoot me a comment whether you agree or disagree. I love the action on this knife. It's smooth, there's no bearing rattling again, and yeah, they did a fantastic job. Let's try it with the coated blade. Same. In fact, I like, because of a little extra friction, it closes without much rebound as opposed to uncoated blade. Tiny little difference, but you know, we're nitpicking, so here we go. Take a close look at the sharpening job they did in these two knives. I'm using my very inexpensive Amazon found microscope. It plugs into any device that has USB-C, comes with its own app that enables you to look at whatever you are scoping real time, or to record a video or even take a snapshot of your screen. Here I'm using my iPad for your convenience so you can see what I'm doing with the knife. I'm looking at the straight portion or slightly recurved portion of the blade. Looking at the apex straight on, I see that there is a little bit of a rounding off at the apex. It's small, so the knife is still sharp, but it's there. And judging by how the tip is shaped, it looks like they ground the secondary bevel by hand and then stropped it a little overzealously, which causes a slight rounding off at the tip. Yeah, you can see that there's a little bit of a convexity to the edge, which means stropping on a belt. And yeah, the tip is slightly rounded off. Let's move on to the other Nekama 2. Here you can see that the main edge is executed basically the same, very slight rounding off at the tip. Again, by overstropping, they probably reduced the time before you need to resharpen it, but how long it stays sharp and how frequently you need to touch up the edge is up to you. Let's see how sharp it is out of the box. This is newspaper paper. This was the PVD coated blade, and now let's see how the uncoated blade performs. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a solid 7. Let me show you what a 9 out of 10 blade can do. This is a Spyderco 15V blade, and you can see and hear the difference, I hope. But your wallet would feel the difference as well, if you know what I'm saying. I'm going to say this knife will skin cut most of the things that you need to cut straight out of the box, and I have no concerns, especially because I'm a sharpening enthusiast. It's my hobby, and I do a lot of videos about sharpening. Look them up on my channel. There are a lot of useful tips. And when I sharpen, my knife ends up whittling human hair. Let's do some torture testing. First, I'll show you the knives are fully operational, centered around smoothly before the test. No blade rocking up or down or side to side, and you know, they're quality knives. I also check the blade for flatness or straightness. I don't know, you tell me. I am feeling and listening for any differences from side to side when I do what I call boinking test. I detect none on this knife, and the coated blade, I think it sounds the same. Sounds the same on both sides, so they're perfectly straight. And now I'm going to use my persuader to lock the blade in the jaws of this hardwood clamp. The angle on the protractor you see behind the knife is set to 15 degrees, which exceeds military standard for blade testing by 6 degrees. military test their knife for bending at 9-degree angles. Okay, I'm trying to get the handle parallel to that rod that is at 15 degrees. And I do it 3 times to the same side. So if the blade is destined to bend, it will bend, like Nekama 1 did. I'll get in the reasons why. I'm eager to see Nekama 2 coated. Yeah, you can see how deep the tip was in. It's actually where the tip weakness is. Okay, sounds the same on both sides. Here is a shot straight on. Absolutely no damage. That gives me hope that this time they did the heat treat right. We'll check that in a couple of minutes here. Back into the vise, and we're gonna do the torsional stress test, or torsional strain test actually. That puts all the internal components under immense amount of pressure. I'm going as hard as I can twist it. Again, no damage. Now let's check the function. Centering function just as it was before the test. No rocking opened up. So that is evidence of quality steels used on the internal components. Good design. All these factors factor in on the systems engineering level. You know, so knife is a sum of its parts, not just the blade steel or the handle material. And in the case of the first test subject here, everything looks just fine. Very, very pleasing to see this level of quality in a very inexpensive knife. Okay, doing the same for the uncoated blade. Really, you know, going a little extra mile here. Let's twist. Not twist, it's called torsional strain test, right? So we're doing this. I don't know if it's a test, it's probably should be called a demonstration because I'm not actually taking any measurements. Anyway, semantics. Straight blade. Let's boink it. Bear with me. Okay. I detect no difference from before. And I don't hear or feel any difference from side to side. Function is great, still centered. You know, guys, I am getting impressed, but before I sing hymns here and, you know, clap my hands, I have to go ahead and hardness test it, which is coming up. No rocking, no visible. So I'm taking the Nekama 2s apart, or partially disassembling them, taking the blades out to test them for hardness. And I noticed when I took the PVD coated one apart, there's basically no Loctite on the screw, but on the one with a satin finish and a gray handle, it's like that screw took a bath here, or they filled this center pivot like a bathtub with Loctite, and I actually had to use my torch to heat up the Loctite, and I couldn't push the pin out without this persuader here. So now I'm taking it apart. Huh, interesting. That is wild. So this one has brass bound steel ball bearings, and they're steel. Yeah, magnetic. And this is magnetic nylon bound bearings. Let me tell you, on this channel my preference is always on the side of nylon bound bearings because I don't like dissimilar metals inside my knives. Dissimilar metals, when exposed to sweat, humidity, and salt fog, may cause galvanic corrosion. I have a few videos on that topic, please look them up on my channel. Before every hardness test, I verify that my Rockwell tester is within the calibration. I use this independently certified, serialized, and rated 62 HRC calibration block. And here's a proper Rockwell test procedure. I place the block onto the anvil. The anvil will be raised toward the stationary diamond penetrator. After the diamond tip makes contact, I am applying minor weight, which is 50 kilograms, as indicated by a tiny little hand in the middle of the dial. When it hits the center of that red dot there, I am zeroing out the scale. So now I'm applying major load, that's 150 kilograms. And what will happen, the device measures the depth of the indentation that is made and then converts it into points of Rockwell hardness. And we get 62.1 HRC. You have to look at the outer set of graduations there in black. That's Rockwell hardness scale C. The red numbers indicate Rockwell hardness scale B, reserved for much softer metals like aluminum, bronze, copper, etc. So we are reading a tiny error to the high side, 0.1 HRC. It's well within the calibration error allowed by specs. I'm way below the allowable error. Now I read 62.2 HRC, good calibration. And this segment is accelerated now for your time's sake, putting the uncoated blade on first. But the segment is fully uninterrupted, unedited, and continues, so that you see there are no shenanigans going on behind the scenes. I'm not editing anything in and out. For 14C28 and stainless, the expected hardness range is 58 to 62 HRC. However, I've seen it pushed higher than that on very seldom occasions. What? I got 62.7 HRC. Wow. I've been advocating for a long time for companies to heat treat uncoated blades to a highest possible range, because when they coat part of the batch, it softens the blade sometimes. Whoa, 62.7 again. I'm celebrating. Cerakoting or PVD coating is sort of a secondary tempering process because it's a high temperature and high duration procedure, which causes softening by as much as 4 points HRC sometimes, as it was the case with Nekama 2 coated blade that I tested in a previous video. Let's see the third and final poke for this blade. 62.6 HRC for the average of 62.7. This is incredible for this steel. And now I'm going to test the coated blade. I am holding my breath. Here's my personal opinion. Cerakote should go away. There should be no Cerakoted blades. To get the Cerakote right, one has to bake the blade for 4 hours at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It's almost like you're deliberately sabotaging the hardness. 61 HRC on the first poke here, which is a great hardness for 14C28N. It's not crazy, but it's very good. And PVD coating, which stands for Plasma Vapor Deposit, is better than Cerakote because it only requires 40 minutes to hour and a half at 300 Fahrenheit. And by the way, it gives you more scratch resistance than the Cerakote. But even there's some risk to soften the blade below desired range. So a manufacturer has to pre-plan for that and heat treat to a higher hardness before coating. And then they can hope to get into this perfect range. Right here it's 61.0 again, for the average of 61.2 HRC. So for these two blades, the heat treatment was done to the best world-class standards. You have no idea how many knives I review on this channel that cost 2-3 times more than this one and leave me disappointed. Lost my sound, but here I'm showing where I got the pair of knives, which is on Whatnot app. This gentleman right here is all his information from Whatnot. I don't know which one I'm supposed to read. It's called Morning Cats and Knives. If you're interested in helping out my channel, I list the ways that you can do it. For example, shopping on Amazon for the tools that you need for knife maintenance and other ways.